right, everyone online, we now have a quorum, so we're going to get our meeting started here. We're really light in the room this morning. Seems like it got evacuated. So let's start. Attendance, Dorothy, please.
Dorothy Banashevsky, Facilities Construction.
Michael Guida, CORC.
Holly Hahn, Office of the General Counsel.
Michael Tubiolo, Facilities Construction.
David Porter, CORC.
Barbara Myers, Construction Purchasing.
Over here in the corner.
David Brooks, Facility Construction.
Renee Ray, Randolph Construction Group.
John Levinson, Rail Enterprises. Skovic Architects at Gordon Smith, General Contractors.
James Farrell with Facilities Construction.
Morgan Balch with the Whites Company.
Okay.
Okay.
I do all mine, Dorothy.
John Cheshire.
Present.
Virginia Ferris.
Here.
Francesca Warnish.
Here.
Bruce Alexander.
Here.
And Kevin Wilkinson.
Present.
Okay, and Kevin, we're going to mute you whenever you're not speaking because there's a lot of static background from you today. Okay, and then it looks like Mr. Gelfand just joined us. Michael?
Yep, I'm here. Thank you very much. My 9 o'clock canceled.
Okay, good to hear.
Right.
Okay, and then in addition, we have Miss Gloria Branch, our school board representative,
Here, thank you.
and Mr. Sanchez is available.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
All right, good morning.
And so is Dave Dolan, by the way.
Okay, and Dave Dolan.
Oh, well.
There goes our short meeting.
Dorothy, mute him, please. Oh, I didn't say that, did I?
Didn't say it, but I'm glad you.
All right, Chairman's report. Couple sad notes, actually. We were informed about a week ago that Sam Shannon passed away. From all I could decipher, it seemed like he never really made it to Texas where he was planning to be, and it happened here. Really quickly after Sam decided he was retiring from CORC, only about a week or two. That's really a shame. And on the other somewhat sad note, but not as tragic, Bill Huckel has decided to retire from CORC. He had a fall. He'll be okay, but it was enough to basically tell him it was time. So Bill has retired from CORC, and I don't know how many years he was on here, but it's probably close to 20. So that's all I have to report on those items.
Very sad news, very sad news. So sorry to hear both.
Yes, I agree. Okay, anyone with a conflict of interest? Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
yeah, I just also wanted to add my condolences on Sam. I mean, he was with us for a long time, as you all well know, and his service to CORC has been tremendous. So I just want to express on behalf of the school district staff that we really do appreciate him and all he's done. I haven't personally had a chance to contact his family members, but I would like to make sure we reach out to them and let them know that we really do appreciate the service that he provided to the school district.
I agree. Dorothy, can you have somebody dig into that as to how to contact his family and send them a heartfelt thank you for his service to CORC? Thank you. Okay, anything else on that? All right, we'll keep the meeting rolling. Anyone with a conflict of interest today or has been approached by a lobbyist that needs to be disclosed? All right, hearing none. Any changes to the agenda? All right, hearing none. Public comments? Any public comments? All right, we're down to consent agenda already, folks. All right. FC1.
Yes, Cheshire.
Did somebody else also chime in?
Yes, Gelfand.
Okay. And I also wanted that pulled. FC2. FC3. FC4. FC5, PC1, PC2, PC3.
Bingo.
Oh, you can put me on there too.
Okay.
Move the items not pulled to go forward.
Not pulled were FC2, FC3, FC4, FC5, PC1, and PC2.
And move those to go forward.
Okay, we need a second.
I'll second.
Second by Michael Guida. Dorothy Paulus, please.
David Porter,
Yes.
John Cheshire,
Yes.
Michael Gelfand,
Yes.
Michael Guida,
Yes.
Virginia Ferris,
Yes.
Francesca Warnish,
Yes.
Bruce Alexander,
Yes.
Kevin Wilkinson.
Yes.
Okay, let's go back to FC1 and John Cheshire, start us off.
Okay, let's see, my question, I have several questions on several items. Dorothy, you may want to pull up the responses to the inquiries.
Okay.
And I'm going to look or read off of that. FC1 was additional design services about the changing from K5 to K2. And someone made a comment about, since it's a material change in the project scope, shouldn't this be a change order instead of a contingency use? And the response was the current district policies do not include change orders for design services. Contingency use is the only way to address design changes. Actually, contingency use as a policy is written now does not cover changes in project scope, either to the CM or to the architect. So that's another good reason why the contingency use procedure needs to be updated, as CORC did 3 years ago, but the district hasn't moved it forward yet. We'll talk about that again later, I'm sure. But that's my comment on that. Also on FC1,
John, how about, let's just stick on that one, because I have a comment on that one, so we don't come back to it, and then we'll go on to your next one.
I have another comment on number 1 as well.
Oh, okay, go ahead then.
I asked about the additional design services. This apparently is only for plumbing changes. So my question then on follow-up on that, were there other design costs associated with this change in program or not?
No, that was just to cover the change to a K2 facility from a
Yeah, I understand that this particular one was, but was the change in the floor plan, was that already in the architect's contract, or did he's making these changes at no cost?
No, that's what the 53 is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the changes for both architectural and plumbing changes.
The $53,000 contingency, John, is for the design changes.
All the architect, engineers, even civil in that as well, some site stuff.
Oh.
That's what FC1A is. That's the design change. What we don't have that goes on to my comment is a cost estimate, which CORC has always asked for before approving design changes for scope changes, is that we want a cost estimate because we want to give that to the board. But again, with a contingency use, we don't get that shot because the money's already been approved. The board doesn't get to approve it. So therefore the board doesn't know what the extra cost is going to be either.
Yeah, and so just to follow up a little bit on this one, it was discussed and presented to the entire board last night at the workshop, and they were unanimously in support of it. They don't vote in the workshop, but they do have comment and discuss the item. It was brought up from academics and the board members area who it was to make this change. And as you know, with West Rib, we were under construction. So we're kind of under the gun to get this going and done. We would like to have more time to get detailed cost estimates before we go forward. The contractor is working on cost estimates. right now, but we just don't have those yet to go forward with it. So we have some really general idea, but we want to make sure we get some better information, everybody. So we will be doing that as a follow-up. We can do that.
Well, that's the whole point of making this a change order, because then it goes back to the board. Then CORC has some authority to go to the board and say, no, $2 million to put in these bathrooms is way too much money. You got to come up with something different, or whatever it might be. But then we have the full picture. This is kind of half a painting. But again, it's already money that's spent. It's already been approved. All we can do is comment about doing it differently next time. Anything else, John?
Yes, item number 7.
Well, if I may, Mr. Chair, on
Yes.
this.
Sure.
First, with the scope change, I understand the workshop concept, but does the board have to approve this?
No, because it's contingency use. That's our whole point.
So the board will approve the change order in the construction as it comes through. But they won't approve the design services, and it'll just be reported.
So, following to the reason that I pulled it also, I will request when we get to a vote on this to sever this item, because I plan to vote against it. Thank you. And I appreciate, Mr. Chair, your comment that, it's already been spent or committed. There's nothing else we can do about it. But if that's the situation, then we shouldn't be hearing about it in the first place.
Well, it's part of our purview that we have to review the reports for contingency use and be able to make comments. Our comments are after the fact, but our comments supposedly go to staff and say, okay, no, don't do this again. We want it done differently. Good, John Cheshire, you had something else on contingency?
Yes, number 7. This had to do with the 12 by 12 tiles in the showers. We changed the 2 by 2 tile. And the response was that it appears that the architect changed the spec for the project. My question is, are architects allowed to change the design standards?
They are. They highlight the changes when they send them to us, but yes, they're allowed to do that for project-specific situations. The master spec is a baseline. We can't cover every situation in that.
So they did highlight this change when they sent it to the district?
I didn't look through the permit documents, but that's the process. I don't.
Okay,
it seems like it was an architect change that might have gotten missed somewhere along the lines. Fortunately, the tile didn't get installed, so that wasn't a rip out and redo. It was just, get the right tile and put that down.
And we did look back at it. The section in that design area for our master spec is a little vague there. It's not as specific as it needs to be, so we're going to follow up and go ahead.
So this is James Farrell on the SPA on it. I actually did get with BCS, and in 2010, 2013 design master specs, it did call out 2 by 2s. In the 2020 edition, it removed the 2 by 2s and basically just talked about slip coefficiency. And obviously based on 2020, when this was being designed, it's right about that time we were doing it. So the architect did specify the 12 by 12s, but per design preference that we've done in the past and MPO's request, we felt the 2 by 2s was a better option.
So the district master spec, the architect didn't do anything wrong because we didn't have 2 by 2s that were required in our master spec. We should adjust our master spec again.
We can certainly talk to BCS and MPO in regards to that.
Yeah, I think that's the wise thing to do. When we have a wet area, 2 by 2 is going to be the better slip resistant material.
Absolutely.
I mean, that would be my recommendation, that we really do send something back to whomever has to look at this to get that reinstated back into our master spec.
Yep, agreed.
Does that have a consensus with CORC?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else for you, John?
One more, item number 11. This is a change order for electrical changes on Jupiter High School. And I asked a question about why do we have to pay extra for devices that supposedly were in the contract, but the answer to me is that devices were not defined prior to the construction bid and were not included in the bid. So you're saying there's an extra somewhere else that covers the cost of those devices if they weren't in the bid, or could you explain that?
Is that number 9?
11.
11.
Up there on the screen.
Yeah, it was always our intent to have the devices installed by somebody else, because the district has their own vendors that do that, the card readers, the motion sensors, all of that was always intended to be installed by the district vendors. Because we were rushing to get this out to bid, we did not have all of the input from school police to locate these. And so the contractor had to run the conduit to the devices, but the devices were being installed by our vendors. And because we didn't have the input from school police on time, we didn't know where that conduit needed to be run.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Michael Gelfand, anything else on this one?
Yes, thank you. Going to item 6, Glade Central, with the water coolers. How do we keep an inventory and the first question is, will our specifications allow these to be installed in other locations? Considering that we have, 40 of these or something like that?
Yeah, they will. It has to do with this specific situation. It didn't fit, but they could be used. We talked to MMPO and they will use them somewhere else. They have a warehouse where they keep stuff like this and use it as they need it. It's probably in an ancillary facility or something like that, or we have the different wall space behind it, but it will be reused, yeah.
All right, someone will be able to just track it so that they can, pop up and, know that they're there and use them.
Yeah, I mean, our maintenance department has work order system that they use and as things comes up, that's the first thing they do is they have all the spare parts, as you can imagine, of every part and piece that we have in the district. So if they have something, they plug it in, they want it the quickest, best fix for it. So we don't know when, but we know it'll be reused.
Yeah, I would think they'll sit on a shelf, Michael, and when they need a water cooler, because some high school kid decided to take a baseball bat to one, they'll have one, just go pull it off the shelf and plug it in.
Not that I ever was an angel in high school or otherwise. I want to follow up on 11 for a moment. Any explanation as to why the devices were not included in the original specs?
Yeah, Dorothy just briefed us on that because it was intended originally that school district police would do that and they didn't get things done in time. And so if I understand it right, Dorothy, the CM was asked to get it done.
The CM was asked to provide the conduit to run the power to these. Unfortunately, the school police did not know where they were going at the time of the original bid. So we knew that they were going to have to provide the conduit. We just didn't know where.
Yeah, and they didn't have linear footage, and so the contractor couldn't put something in except an allowance, and the allowance would have been just grabbing a number out of the air.
I understand the contractor on that, but I'm wondering why school police didn't have that as part of their review.
I think it was just
go ahead,
yeah,
I'm
I
sorry.
think it was just a timing issue. This was one of the projects because we had gotten donations. We were in a hurry to try to get the project out. School police was going through different transitions at the time and different staffing. And I think it was a coordination issue that just didn't happen.
All right. Then wanted also on 13 Timber Trace. Understand the explanation. Thank you very much for going through and tracing it out, but there's a lot of time that passed in there. Is there any way that can be tightened up?
So our core expansions are they're most difficult projects that we have in the district because we're trying to work in almost every core space in the school that's occupied. So it's very hard to estimate how long things are going to take with these core expansions because our primary focus is to get the work done with the caveat that we don't affect the operations of the school. So it's extremely difficult when you're dealing with cafeterias and office space and that kind of thing, the clinic. So, yeah, ideally we'd love to have it down, but we just can't shut the school down they're just real difficult.
I think he's asking more why it took so long to process the change.
Oh, to process the change order. I'm with you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and we are certainly working to try to make those more expeditious. Part of it was the fact that we had an awful lot of work going on and a lot of changes. And so as they were going to project controls, we had one person who was doing the review, and then we added a second person, and then now I think we're up to maybe 3 people who are doing the reviews of that. A lot of it is contingent upon how quickly the contractors respond and how well their responses are. Some of our contractors provide a lot of detail, a lot of background, and some of them are not as good. So sometimes they have to go back and forth many times. But we are working on that. We've got more people on the administrative side where I was reviewing everything at one point. We've got 4 people now reviewing it. So we're doing our best to make these things a little more expeditious.
Yeah, and part of it is the thoroughness that we do on our closeout review is that we make sure that anything was missed along the whole process is clarified and rectified through any paperwork we didn't have, anything. So it does take a long time to close out a project, but when we're done, we're confident that everything's accurate, everything's closed, and we're good to go. Last thing we want to do is kind of rush through that and then not catch things that we should have.
Yeah, I'll just add to that, if the contractor's the one that's tardy, I just think when these are presented to us, we need that timeline so that we're not blaming district staff and, the whole governmental slow pay process. If the contractor is being tardy and slow and not responding or not giving enough detail, I don't want them coming back arguing, oh, it takes so long to get paid from you guys. Okay, yeah, it's your own fault.
Yeah, I think it was a combination of both, district side and contractor side.
Whatever we can do to come up with a process that just speeds up payment, we will end up having lots more contractors interested in doing our work. Okay, anything else? Who's that?
I don't know.
Dave Billman?
Yeah, I was just going to comment that yes, we are, that is a big action item for our entire group to improve that process. That's one of the reasons why we're doing that audit, that the auditor's coming in to evaluate a lot of our processes and in order to try to find ways to smooth through the payments while still being responsible, fiduciarily responsible to the district, the money, the taxpayer money. So we are constantly looking at that. Michael's team has made a big effort, but now we're going to go through with an auditor and see if there are some things we can do to, I don't want to say short circuit it, but make sure that we find better opportunities to do a thorough evaluation instead of each and every item being so drawn out.
I'm hopeful that will work. I guess I've been on CORC long enough that this has come up annually, every other year, to pick up our procedures somehow that we can pay faster. So let's hope it works.
Move item FC1 forward with appropriate comments attached.
Okay, do we need to itemize those comments?
Mr. Wilson had one exception to one.
Oh, Michael had one exception.
Yeah, I move
Exactly.
Virginia.
But I would like that comment put forward that Michael made.
So Virginia, is your motion including item number 1, West Riviera?
Yes, it is, but I would like the comment put forward that you had about it.
All
right. I would move to sever, Mr. Chair, item number 1 from the motion.
We have 2 motions and no seconds.
Okay, so FC1 gets removed and therefore everything else, Virginia, everything else is then what you're making a motion on?
As I said, we don't have, we don't have, in other words, Michael, what you're saying is if we separate that out, then you will give your comment on that?
Yes.
My thought was if we pass this with one dissension on FC1, then your comment would be attached.
Right.
Yeah, we've got 16 items under FC1.
Right.
And he's asking to just remove number 1 out of those 16. And I don't know how we do.
And for clarification, I guess I'm trying to understand the basis for your comments. And is that this particular item has already been, the work has been approved and it's been paid and you object to that?
At this point, yes.
Okay, I would like to direct you to policy 7.225 that allows and designates to staff the ability to approve contingency use per project up to $100,000. So in this particular case, the item number 1 aligns with the policy.
In fact, the entire FC1 category, that's exactly what that is already approved items. That's a report. That's what makes FC1 different than the other FC1s, is that they're already all delegated authority. So,
Appreciate the policy and all that, but if that's the situation, then there's no reason for CORC to vote on the item.
No, Michael, I disagree because I think we've done this before on other contingency items where we make a comment and the comment becomes part of the motion. And that way the board understands what the critique is, that it just didn't get rubber stamped.
That was my intent for the motion, so that Michael's comment could get attached to that item.
If Virginia's motion is that we are providing comments to the board on the particular items, period, then I would withdraw my motion to sever and vote in favor. If the motion is that we have no objection to the school board considering and approving, then I will continue my motion to sever. This is not something that's contrary to the board policy. It's that to the extent that the district is requesting this body to indicate that there is no objection to the board approving these items, and if that's the situation, then we shouldn't be voting on this. We should just be providing comments.
I believe we really do just provide comments because whether we vote or not, this is already done. The board, this doesn't go to the board for approval. It goes to the board for comments. We're voting on it to see whether we agree with everything that we're hearing and reading, or whether we want the board to know about our comments for, I guess, future use.
and how we can improve it going forward with that. Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Mr. Dolan. Dave Dolan?
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear that. Yes, again, you guys are spot on. The intent of the FC1 is obviously just a report, and the benefit of the report, the reason why it is expected to go to the board is because for this exact reason. The board wants you as CORC members to review it and see, did we as staff mess something up? Is there something egregious that was completely wrong? That's the effort, and they want to see that effort. And in past, we've had items where we said, "Oh goodness, thank you very much. We missed it. We messed it up. We're going to revise. We're going to go back and revise the item, the actual change order or CCUA or whatever." but we don't actually, the report itself is just a vehicle so that the board can validate that you, CORC, had an opportunity to review it. As to a certain extent, Mr. Gelfand's right, it doesn't really need to be voted on, but in order to present it to the board, it does need to be an action item like an FC item. So that's why your comments are very much appreciated, and we do what Ms. Ferris said is we should be, if there's a vote against it, the comments should be identified so it's very clear that you guys did do your due diligence and we've gotten a good review of it. I think that's the effort.
Yeah, and we do definitely appreciate all the comments on the FC1 items. We do continuously learn from it, like the one today about the tile. That's something that, as a discussion, we have an action item going forward with it. So it's not a waste of a review by any means. I think it's important.
Michael, what we've done before is that we've had a dissenting vote, and the dissenting vote would then get reported on both the board report, the minutes, and going back to the board, that there was a dissenting opinion about even something on FC1. So you're welcome to make the dissenting vote and dissenting opinion.
That's what I was going to exactly suggest on this, is that, I'll withdraw the motion to sever, we proceed forward, and I'll have my dissenting vote.
Actually, there was no motion because it wasn't seconded, but I will now go forward again with my motion. Hopefully it will be seconded to move this forward to the board with the appropriate comments.
Seconded.
Dorothy, we do have a hand up, Mr. Cheshire.
John Cheshire, you have comment?
Yeah, I'm going to vote no as well in support of Mr. Gelfand. But in addition to that, I want to make a comment so that the board realizes that contingency use, which is what this is, does not cover changes in project scope, which is what this is. So I'm going to be voting no, and I want that to be added.
Right, that would be your dissenting vote, and then that comment would go in the board report and in the minutes for your dissenting opinion. So we've had a vote, we've had a second. Any other comments? All right, Dorothy Polis, please.
David Porter. John Cheshire.
No.
Michael Gelfand.
No.
Michael Guida.
Yes.
We have Tom Berger joined us, but I don't know if he's able to vote on this item or not.
I'm not, because I did not hear any of the discussion.
Okay. Virginia Ferris.
Yes.
Francesca Warnish.
Yes.
Bruce Alexander.
Yes.
Kevin Wilkinson.
Yes.
Okay, Michael, do you want to give Dorothy a short version of your dissenting opinion?
Two matters on it. One is with reference to the board's specific position on making this a K2, but more importantly, like boldface, is that we do not have an estimate as to the cost of construction, what the impact of this approval will actually be.
Okay. And Dorothy, you got John's from before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That
Thank
wraps
you very
up.
much. Appreciate it.
That wraps up FC1. All right, we're down to PC3. Mike Guida, you go this time.
Okay, let me see if I find it. Trying to find where my comment.
Michael Gelfand, if you're ready, go ahead. Let Mike Guida pull his stuff up.
So when we have these contracts, is there a vetting process as to the ability to address security concerns, particularly the new concerns with the ready availability of not only guns but automatic weapons, and particularly anticipating the changes by the legislature to allow kids to carry these items? Again, this is not a Second Amendment issue. This is not pro or anti-gun. I'm assuming that everyone has them. And how are we approaching this situation to address these items? And I'll say also, I am all in favor of the interlocal agreements and have been for quite some time with parks, but what are we doing to ensure, or how are we approaching the design process to ensure that our schools are safe?
Michael, this is on PC3 for just an extension of the architectural agreements?
Yep. It's my vehicle here that I've got this here. All
Okay.
right.
I will just comment that all of our design professionals are trained in CEPTED, which is a national organization that deals with design and how you design facilities with security in mind. So that there's the industry standards. And then we take direction, obviously, from school police about the district-specific initiatives of additional security beyond that. So
what I'm looking at here is beyond the repeated issues that we've had with changes down the line, because internally we haven't been able to design these items up front. The perspective that I'm looking at is anticipating what's happening in the future and changes. To the extent that folks are looking at standards that were drafted previously and, designing to that, are we vetting and trying to ensure that folks are understanding what the anticipated changes are for the future? And even, a couple of weeks ago, I'm up in Tallahassee right now, and I'm seeing the movement forward on, in essence, arming the population. So, are we protecting our schools, and do our professionals understand the line?
Michael, they're trained, all the professionals in security, but I'm still not seeing anything with this that has anything to do with a specific scope. This is just keeping the same architects that were pre-selected because of their qualifications. This is not identifying a scope for a specific project, which is kind of what you're asking for. This is not a generalized design scope.
I'm looking at more general than just a specific as we move forward with all of our professionals. Are we doing this? And again, when I see specifications, and especially engineering specifications, they're built on policies that are based on experience over time and what's occurred. We're dealing with a very liquid situation now. Right? And to the extent that there are policies that were adopted even last year, they don't match what the issues are that we're going to be facing with schools in the next few years, not to say beyond that.
Yeah, just as speaking very general, we do take security obviously very seriously, and we constantly upgrade our security throughout our facilities. So our newest facilities, we put in the latest technology, and we have a whole team of professionals that go back and retrofit all the existing schools to match that, so that nobody's left behind. So we have a whole program of both construction and school police and maintenance that update all of our existing schools as we constantly improve security, without talking about specific measures. But
And I also have a comment to add. Mr. Gelfand, our contracts with all of these vendors also provide that they are not allowed to bring firearms on campus.
All right. So, one thing may be helpful to understand and provide to the school district is if our design professionals would provide information to the board as to what the anticipated costs, to the extent we have more weapons that are out there, especially in younger age persons. I know that's beyond their agenda today to propose anything like that, but I'll just make that comment if we are serious about this. Thank you.
Okay, Mike Guida.
All right, my comment is to do with the timeline. From reading through this, it shows that we're going to be adding an extra $7 million of consulting fees from April of last year to April of this year. And here we are 3 months before the expiration of that, and we're approving this. So if you go to page 4, you can see that says the first option was exercised on April 21st, 23.
So you're correct. We have expensed on that contract currently, the one that was approved almost a year ago, a little more than a year ago. We've expensed roughly $6.7 million already. So we're kind of at ground zero with that contract. We're almost not able to write any more contracts on that existing contract that was awarded last April. So we need additional funds, and when we have a request for additional funds, we reach out to the facilities department and we get an estimate on what projects that they think they're going to want to award to these continuing services between now and when the contract expires. And the information that we received back was a list of about 75 projects. So right now we're at the tail end of the facility renewal projects, and there's many, many projects, but they're all smaller dollar amounts. So to kind of group those projects together, and if we are to award them all now between now and when this contract expires, that estimate was about 6.8 million or 6.9 million. So, you know, we just want to be prepared. We want the contract prepared to have funds available on it to be authorized to be spent.
All right, thanks for the clarification on that, because it's the first time I'm seeing it like.
And this scope covers all of our facility renewals, as Barbara mentioned, that are under the 2 or under the 4 cap, but it also includes all of Dorothy's minor project stuff as well. So,
and just to clarify, these approved funds that for the extra 7 million is going to be distributed between all the consultants. Correct. However way you award them.
Well, when they get a job,
when the job comes.
Contract amount. And then I guess that's negotiated with staff is, no, we're not going to pay 10 million for a $700,000 construction project.
Right. And all these are limited, so these wouldn't be the higher dollar value contracts, right?
So what happens to the funds after April 20th of
So we're not.
The contract is reduced.
Yeah.
So if those funds aren't spent, the contract is reduced to zero, and we'll present this item back to you in April for the next contract year, if that's what's decided that we want to continue on with.
We like to do these once a year as we go, but sometimes the timing gets a little off. If like we're spending more than we think we have to go for a renewal, then we look at that. So.
Okay, so you were anticipating the 7 million to cover the 2 years, but it didn't quite get there.
We were anticipating 7 to cover 1 year.
And we didn't.
And we
didn't make it to 1 year.
We didn't even make it 1 year.
No, but the first 7 was from April 23 to 24.
Yeah.
Right, we haven't gotten to April 24 yet, so they're saying they didn't quite make a year.
Past April 24.
Oh, yeah, 24.
Oh, right, we did, that was last year.
That was last year. So here we are, 9 months later, asking for an extra 7 million to amend
the date
here.
Correct.
Are we amending?
I understand what you're saying now.
No. So on this document here, it says the second option to renew was being exercised from April 21st, 2024 to April 20th, 2025. So that's the contract year we're in right now. We're in the second option year.
And 9 months later is when it's coming up for approval or
For additional funding.
additional.
Right, yeah, exactly.
This was approved last April. April 24, it was approved for whatever dollar amount was set. We've already spent the majority of that money, and we're looking for enough money to finish out this contract.
I understood. That's not the way I'm understanding it.
John Cheshire.
Yeah, I'm confused too. It says the first renewal was from April of 23 through April of 24. And I understand you apparently have money available to give these consultants work. But if their contract expired in April of 24, how could you give them work in May, June, July, all of the remaining part of 24 if the contract was expired?
So the contract, it gets renewed every year. So it went from 23 to 24, and then it was renewed again from 24 to 25.
The document that you're looking at, Mr. Cheshire, that's on the screen that says the second option, this is a historical document. You saw this last April.
Yeah.
So we just put that, we provide that backup to show you that that was approved last April.
So there's already a contract in place from April 24 to April 25.
Okay, well, that's confusing, I guess, but I understand your verbal explanation, but it's, looking at the document, it doesn't read very clear, but thank you for the explanation.
So go to the previous page, Dorothy.
Yeah, when it says request for additional funds, it's got from 24 to 25. It should be from 25 to 26, right?
No, because that's what happened in April.
Oh, yeah.
It's just
So last March,
get us through to the third renewal.
so Barbara, please explain, on last March, April, it says March 13, 2024, we approved $7 million for consultant work.
For April 20, for the contract term of April 21st, 2024 to April 20th, 2025. That was approved.
So all those, that $7 million was pretty much all spent, almost
Yes.
all spent.
About seven-
Now we're coming up on, in January, say we need more funds
Yes.
to help fund
The end of this.
this contract. Okay.
Yes.
And so going back to my other question, so at the end of this contract period, that money then gets released back to,
It's just it's just a holding place, really. It's just authority to spend.
okay.
Account, and
Yeah.
you don't spend it.
Right, so it'll be applied to a PeopleSoft contract, which gives us the authority to execute actual contracts through purchase orders. If we do not execute contracts through purchase orders from that PeopleSoft contract, then that PeopleSoft contract will be reduced to zero.
So the simplification of this is that you want $7 million from January of 2025 to April of 2025.
Right.
Yes, pretty much.
And we may need more.
You had to confuse things again. There we go.
So we can anticipate, the court committee can anticipate next month or the following month, a renewal of these consultants' contracts coming.
Correct, in March.
And with that, there'll be
The next contract term.
some value associated with that too.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Then I move I vote to move this forward for approval to the board.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second,
Second by Virginia. Any comments, questions? All right, Dorothy Paulus, please.
David Porter,
Yes.
John Cheshire,
Yes,
Michael Gelfand,
Yes.
Michael Guida,
Yes.
Tom Berger,
Yes.
Virginia Ferris,
yes.
Francesca Warnish,
Yes.
Bruce Alexander,
Yes.
and Kevin Wilkinson.
Yes.
Okay, we are down to staff updates.
Dave, you're on. Do you have anything to add? I do have a few items if you don't, I know he's kind of between a couple tasks right now, so.
Golf and fishing?
No, stuff later. So I'll move forward if he can comment if he needs to. So we do have a new CORC member starting next month. I hope I say this right. Francais Macabou will be going to the board potentially. So we'll be looking forward to getting them oriented and starting on.
Whose appointee is that? Mr. Lane?
No, it's Mr. Ferguson.
Okay.
What category are they filling?
I don't remember. Dorothy might know. Do you remember the category for?
Did not.
So this is in process. Just want to let everybody know it's coming. They do vet make sure they meet the qualifications. Holly's involved with some of that, so that's upcoming.
What was his name?
I think it's a her, Francais Macabou.
Okay.
And then West Acreage, next month, in February 16th, the board is going to approve the actual official name of the elementary school that's going on out there. We have, I think, 3 recommendations. There is a committee that meets and votes on it. The top recommendation right now is Saddleview Elementary, and they would be the Colts, but it's up to the board to take one of those recommendations as the final approval. As you know,
Could you repeat that top choice, please, the name?
Saddleview Elementary School.
Saddle, as in a horse saddle?
Yeah, horse saddle, yes.
As you know, that there's a lot of equestrian out there. Actually, on the west side of the property next to the school, there's a horse trail that they run horses on, and so it's a part of the community out there. But they made, I think, 3 recommendations or 5 recommendations. Well, 5 and 3 got votes. That was the top vote getter. So we'll look forward to that next month.
Another question, did they approve the boundary change yesterday?
They took the next step in approving it. I think it has to go through a couple more readings though to be officially finalized, but yes, it was passed along.
Yeah, I couldn't make the workshop because of travel plans.
And which school was this for?
West Acreage, Arden.
Okay.
Hello, yes, this is Chris. Yes, they passed first reading last night. They had the workshop and first reading. The second reading will be on March 12th, and then the process will be completed.
Thank you, Chris. Is it the superintendent's recommended plan?
It was. They really liked it.
Okay, all right. I was sorry I could not make it because of travel problems.
We were too, and we explained that to everyone.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. We appreciate your service.
Thank you, Chris. Also in March, looking forward, we're going to be kicking off our facility condition assessment. That's the district-wide in-person assessment of every school. So we'll be doing, it'll take between 12 and 15 months to complete 185 schools. So there'll be a big team looking at, and that's going to be the basis of our next referendum. Not the entire thing, but $1 billion of it, of all of our planned maintenance. So they do a very detailed analysis of every school and set timelines and cost of how much it's going to cost to replace all the components. So we're looking forward to getting that kicked off.
Is that being done by staff?
No, we have a company out of Canada that's going to be doing it. This gets into the whole conflict of interest things. So if we had any of our local vendors participated, they wouldn't be able to work on the projects when they come. So we're able to find this company that had a source wall contract already. They do this all over. This is all they do. So they do this all over the country and Canada as well. So it was a good marry where they don't have any conflict. They have no intention of doing any management or any participation in the construction or design.
Have they done a lot of work in Florida, South Florida?
They do. They have an office on the West Coast. So they do, they do a lot of work, yes.
Because our AC systems are not what you have in Canada.
No. They're well versed in our systems that we have here. Yep.
Okay.
We're also at the same time working on our capital plan. We're knee deep in that, or really neck deep in that, right, Dorothy? Working through that right now. And at the end of the month, it gets the first I guess the second workshop. There was a workshop last night with some modifications proposed to the capital plan. One of those was moving up the Westlake Elementary School to try to get that opened in 27. So we'll be working on some design proposals, RFQs, really shortly here, probably next couple months here. So we were projecting that a little bit further, but because of the demographics and the increased students that are coming from Westlake, even with West Acreage, we're seeing a need for a school out there. So that's going to be moving forward. You'll see that on the plan soon. It's also, believe it or not, it's summer work planning season. So as we're getting these GMPs in, we started coordination with the schools about summer schools and what they have going on over there. I have a meeting with some regionals and some staff tomorrow, actually, as our first discussion point. But we have to really lay out exactly what we're doing in all these schools so we know how we can still have summer school, summer programs, and all the other things that go on at our schools. A couple of other little things. I just wanted to reiterate with Dorothy's position. She's not going anywhere for a year anyway, but you will be definitely hearing from Marquise and David as they get more and more involved with the CORC process. We're going to kind of step them in step by step, and the plan is to have them kind of take over the meeting in June-ish, one of those meetings, and then have Dorothy as backup for those meetings for the rest of the year. But over the next few months, you'll definitely be hearing more and more from them. So if you see an email from one of them, Dorothy will be copied on it, but they're going to be taking over her role as we go forward. So, and then the last thing, just make everybody aware, we're going to be kicking off a project in the next couple months to resurface, really more than resurface. We're going to completely restructure our parking lot here. So we'll be talking about parking and logistics of it. That's what we're in right now. So it may affect some CORC meetings and how we schedule those and attendance and looking at moving staff parking off site. We're looking at a lot of different logistical things to make that happen. So that's upcoming.
Can you plus the CORC members in?
Look at all different options, yeah.
I mean, you could just, if you had to for a month, have it just a virtual CORC meeting. nobody used the room.
And I don't know if we can do a complete virtual.
Yeah, we can.
But
Yeah, nobody has to be in the room. Yeah.
So we're definitely talking about those.
Or you also have the option of, down at Fulton Hall.
Yeah, we can use a different facility that we have.
Try to get a room though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know that can be tricky with trainings.
Are you ready for questions? Michael?
Absolutely. Yep.
For the FCA investigation, is that coming out of the fees? Is that coming out of the referendum, or was that already budgeted separately to pay them?
Leanne it was in the capital plan. We actually removed it because we were waiting on the vote for the referendum. So Leanne has the money identified, and the exact funding source I don't know, but she knows about it. And it'll be coming forward in March. You guys will review that as an official item.
Okay.
I believe it goes through CORC, but it's going to be it may not, because it may go through goods and services. So I'll find out. But either way, we can give you a little bit more detail on it. But we know what it's going to entail at this point. We have the statement of work and everything. So
Okay. For Dorothy, when you kind of transfer over, I know you're going from one person to two person. We've always had just one email address and one person to talk to. So if one of the two will be kind of the point person, or if we send everything to two, to me, I think that might get confusing for one of the two to reply. So you guys figured out that internally, but I think for the way we've always worked it, it's been easy and simple for things we get from you, like one person. It's not two people that don't necessarily know that the other one's doing it.
Right.
So.
But I also wanted to mention a little earlier when we were talking about expediting reviews and things like that. That was a lot of the reason that we ended up with two people to help spread that work a little bit and help hopefully get things done quicker.
Okay. Don't tell Jim Kennard that, the position's now being handled by two. Maybe he'll file a grievance, in absentia for being overworked. All right. That it for staff updates? Nothing more from Mr. Dolan? In progress FCA work is up next.
Nothing for me.
Okay.
Okay, I'll take the lead on this presentation this week since I'm in person here. You can jump to the next slide. So you can see that we continue to spend dollars moving forward on that. This is just a tally. We need some updates on this for next month. We'll get that done as far as the current. These projections are back in October, November, so we'll get that updated for next month. This is upcoming solicitations and awards. Yeah, it's a little hard to read, but you can see all the ones that we're doing a ton of work. A lot of those are the smaller dollar value, but we do have a handful of larger projects that we're working on. We're doing some selection committees this week, and we're moving forward with a lot of the transportation facilities, Roosevelt Full Service, we're moving forward on those. So, as well as, what's it called? Westlake, which will be coming forward, which will be on here. These are the MPs coming forward. You can see a lot of small projects that we push through, but there are some little bit larger ones. These are ones that we're actively working with contractors now to get finalized. There is potential on January, February approvals to still get done in the summer, depending on the work, depending on if there's long lead time items or not. So we're trying to get those through to solidify the summer work.
Back to item on Westlake. Is there a discussion to do a reuse?
Yes, that is the plan, but we wanted to have open competition as well. So the plan right now is to do an RFQ, but the design firms would submit their best reuse for that site. So it's kind of we want to encourage the competition. We don't want to just hand it out to a firm, but we thought the reuse definitely, there's some value to the district on. So
especially if it's a reuse that we've done and we like and we've tweaked and we know about. I mean, it's a whole lot easier than starting from a blank piece of paper.
It is a pretty tight site. It's a little bit of an odd shaped site. So definitely the site adaptation part will be critical in that. So we're going to do it as a two-phased. So that way we get the documents in, and then we can really dig into those reuses so that we kind of get a good idea rather than just that one phase.
Okay, go ahead.
Development activities, a lot of stuff going on here from the planning and design perspective. You can scroll through those. Keep going. Facility renewals. This is this is the 2016 referendum money of ongoing construction stuff. We have some of these that we're doing a second part to, that are coming back around. As a note, you may see some schools that items come up that we completed a while ago. As you recall, when the program first came out, it was Cool, Safe, Drive, Right. So we left out some scope from the initial referendum. So now we're actually circling back and completing that scope so that we make sure that everything that was promised in that first referendum is completed. So some of the schools that were done in those first 4 or 5 years are getting some more work done beyond what was done the first time. So you will see some of those again. Ongoing, you can see there's just a ton of those underway. Facility renewals, this is just some of the pictures of that work. Again, we touch basically everything in the school that needs to be maintained. There's just some examples there. Some tile installation going on.
Was there 2x2 on the floor?
So that was, the other one was the showers, but, so it is a small tile though.
Okay,
Even
good.
in the restrooms, there's not a shower area. We do prefer the small tiles for slip coefficient, as you understand. West Acreage is moving along well. We started the first lift in one of the parking lots. Interior, they're rolling, it's moving fast. Good news, they are ahead of Blue Lake at the same time. If you remember, this is a prototype time, so they've caught up time and they're ahead of where they were at with Blue Lake. There's still not a lot of fluff, as you can imagine, getting ready for August. So there's no let up, but as you can see, it's going really well. They're working through all the MEP rough-ins on the project and framing and stuff like that. As I mentioned, you can see on the north side of that building, you can see the first lift of the asphalt of the front parking lot. So that's going in. The south side is the service yard.
Well, if I remember Blue Lake, the paint was just drying by the time the kids walked.
Yeah, so we need to be ahead of that
was a little
schedule to
tight,
make it work, yeah. Excited out there for it. So looking forward to get that open. There's some of the inside pictures. You can see that we're moving along. You can see some of the detail work on the left side. That's the media center on the second floor of that prototypical design. But we really spent some time with some of the articulation in the form panels to get a little bit of a look that matches the community out there. So you'll see that this is definitely a little bit different look, definitely a lot different look than Blue Lake. If you look at them from the outside, they're going to look at different schools, but the inside is essentially the same, other than some security upgrades that we've done since the first time around. So
I hope those windows don't face west, or that's a problem.
I don't remember offhand, but we'll take a look at that.
You're going to have to put an awning over top of that.
Pine Grove, as you know, we're operating Pine Grove. We're working on the parking lot and demolition of the buildings. So we're working through that. This project's starting to wind down. We're trying to start even early on the closeout process. So you can see the parking lot on the left side of the picture being constructed. But the school's operational. We're working through all the 1-year items that come up as warranty items that you know of in construction. So, but the school's operating great. You can see some more pictures of that.
Talking about warranty items, is that something that gets reflected back on the PPE scores? Because we get a building done, the CM finishes the job, and then we spend, you could spend a whole year out there with maintenance constantly there because of things that just weren't done right.
Yeah, we don't have that incorporated. We discontinued the PPEs at our final pay app right now. So this is the playgrounds. You can see those being installed with the covers over them. Woodbrook, this is expected to be open in August this year as well. They're moving forward on the inside, finishing up the window installations, working on interior framing and drywall. Keep scrolling, get some pictures there. You can see the buildings are up. It's hard to tell the progress because you can't see inside very well, but they're definitely making progress on the inside of the facility. The building on the bottom left was the one that we renovated, the one that we kept, and the other two are the new buildings. So we'll hope to get some more interior pictures, I think, on some of that space as we go forward. You can see on the picture on the left there, they did kind of a really neat design feature, I should say, that they poured that into the panel. You can see the mascot. So we're going to get that. We have a paint scheme for that, and it came out really well. The tilt panel company did a great job with that, yeah.
At this stage of the game where everything's covered, is the contractor required to provide as-built at that point?
So they have their as-built,
Sure everything on the ground is in the right location on the plans?
they have the documents marked up, and then they go back and they're surveying, they had it surveyed and marked up, but they don't officially submit that stuff until the end. But yeah, they have it marked up in the document. It's just not turned over to us.
Okay, and the project managers make sure that happens?
Yeah, they're supposed to.
Okay, great.
Maybe an item for a future CORC meeting where we don't have a lot of things is show us a couple of screenshots of as-built drawings.
Yeah, we'll talk to some key subcontractors and get those over to us.
I mean, whatever getting turned over to you, because I mean, that's been one of our pet peeves all along is that, somebody hasn't measured that pipe location. So now we're out there digging a hole and guessing.
Yeah, we're definitely involved with that. BCS kind of takes the lead on that, but we can have them to talk about that as well, because they
doesn't have to be long. It's just, hey, here's our red line and here's the dimensions for the pipe.
Yeah.
Fine.
Scroll back up for a second real quick. That Winbrook, you can see the inside that we've moved along. We got all the working on the electrical and mechanical installation, so it's moving along really well. Modernizations West Riv, this is not scheduled for August. We're planning to be open the next August. It'll be done well before then. We're scheduled to be done about the end of next year, but just didn't work out from a timing perspective to be open right at the start of the year. But they're moving forward and getting ready to tilt some panels. I think we have some pictures of the panels. Mr. Gelfand?
Yeah, is this the K2 school?
Yes.
As we're looking at some of these core items, is there any consideration that needs to be made where we now have a population that is shorter and smaller than you would in a normal K5?
Yeah, it's not actually. So how we divided it up. So West Riv and Bethune have almost identical capacities, right around 900, 950, somewhere in that range. So what would have been split between the two schools as a normal K through 5 is just split between K2 and 3 through 5. So Bethune is set up that actually works because of new code changes. That can function as a 3 through 5. The only difference is we're going to have one of the K2 playgrounds switched out for a 3 through 5. So there's really minor changes. For West Riv, it doesn't quite work the same, going the opposite direction, because the smaller kids have to have the restrooms in the classrooms. So that's what we're adding with this facility, some additional restrooms in the third floor classrooms that were designed for 3-5. Now we're designed for K2, so they have, on the second floor, so they have individual restrooms in there, so.
What I was referring to though is for like in the cafeteria and the media center where you have tables and counters, chairs and things of that like. Do we need to, make a consideration that they need to be smaller because the kids are smaller, the students are smaller?
No, we used to, way back, we used to have different water cooler sizes and all that kind of stuff for the different ages, and we don't do that any longer. So they're all the same size for the elementary school kids. So there's really...
So they get issued step ladders? Every kid's got to hold around a step ladder?
No, no, it works for them. I mean, you think about it, they do just fine at home, but no, it's not... we used to have different levels for every K2 through 3-5, and now it's just kind of standardized for elementary school. So, yeah.
So, understand in the past standardizing for it, but now since we're going back and distinguishing or separating, should we be looking back and seeing whether we should be sizing differently because our population is smaller in these schools?
We don't do it for the other populations of K2. So the idea being that we have the flexibility, to give you a little more detail. So even where we're adding the single restrooms, we have resource rooms and some things like that on the second floor, but we're going to keep the group restrooms for those purposes. So if we were to decide in 3-4 years from now that the K2 3-5 model didn't work as well as we thought it would from an academic standpoint, it could immediately be converted back to a traditional K through 5 school without any renovation work. So we want to make sure we have that flexibility. The academic side constantly tries new things to see what is the best performance for our students, and that's really the key issue here. We're taking the lead from the academics. It worked really well up in Jupiter, so we're going to try it another location, kind of similar to like the K-8s. We've tried it a couple locations, and they monitor progress of how it translates to student performance and give us feedback. So this is really an academic issue. Construction just kind of following their lead on providing the facilities that they're recommending.
Thank you.
Sure. West River, you can go down to some of the pictures. You can see that they're being tilt up. That north end there that you see is the casting bed, so that'll be demoed after it's done. The rest of it is permanent slabs. You can see they're forming those up. They're actually getting ready to tilt. This is a little bit old. They actually have them being poured now, so they'll be tilting those up soon. So they're a little bit ahead of what it shows there. You can see some of the pours. There we go. This is the existing facility. So the existing building that they have, they've moved forward, obviously, with the interior work while they are waiting on the rest of it to be done. So you can see that part's farther ahead than the new buildings. Historic Roosevelt full service moving forward. We actually just, the contractor did the topping out ceremony last week. If you're not familiar with what that is, that's just an opportunity for the general contractor to give a reward to all the subcontractors working on it and the workers. So they provide them lunch and have a little ceremony. That what it is they've completed the top highest point of the building is what that is. So that it's a traditional thing that happens on some projects. So the general contractor provide lunch for the subs, and they commended them on the work they've done to that point and look forward to pushing on to the rest of the project. So that is moving forward. Here's some pictures of the outside the facility. Keep going. You can see that the portion on the left will be part of phase 2. All those finger buildings will be demolished and leave the outside building, and the right side is phase 1 that is under construction. So keep going. As you can see, that's in the existing building coming back and pouring. So you can see they're really moving forward. This is minor projects. There is this, traditionally was Dorothy's wheelhouse. With the way we're organized, we kind of split everything down between Marquise and David. So one of them won't be the minor project person. They'll both have minor project work and major project works. We're creating more of a team environment as our department. So we have some silos that way for some better oversight than have it split out. So here's some of the minor project work that we have going. This is just the sampling. Obviously, we have tons of work. As you saw, we issued $6.9 million already this year. So we definitely have a ton of work going on there in design contracts. Yeah, we've run into this a lot where we've had trees in courtyards and we've had concrete that's been, pushed up and create tripping hazard or cracks and things like that. So we're having to go back and take some of that out. Sometimes we had brick pavers in there that just didn't last. So we've replacing the pavers with concrete, which has a better chance against the trees. So this is the school police renovation at Fulton Holland that's been going on. It's getting ready, as you can see, putting in furniture, getting to wrap up. That's the one that you've seen some modifications. We had a couple different chiefs along the way, that if you remember. So that's getting ready to wrap up and finish that one. So,
With the police facility at Fulton Holland,
yep.
Do they get camera views from all the schools? I mean, do the feeds go back to them as well?
I don't know all the details, but yes, there's several things there. They can tap into any of that. As you know, we have at least one, if not more, school police resource officer at every facility. So they definitely have camera access, and it does go back to the main feed as well. So there's, as you can imagine, with hundreds of thousands of cameras, you can't see everyone at every time, but there is spot checking and critical times to be able to see what's going on.
But they have a special camera right now for you, David, and beware where you pick your nose.
Okay. Two of them actually, right?
Okay, any other questions for Michael? You got something?
Yeah, on the trees in the courtyards and with clients that are constantly having problems with roots, there are apparently some species that still have wide branches that provide shade, but have a root system that does not displace concrete. I'm wondering if the district has access to a landscape architect that can assist in, at least trying out a couple of different varieties to see what works in that location.
Yeah, and we're constantly looking at that because, as you know, it's a delicate balance where if you don't have any shade in the courtyard, it's unusable most of the year, but you have too much shade, then it starts affecting some. Yeah, we definitely look at species as a critical part of that. These projects were done eons ago. Brick pavers look nice. It was a good idea to put them in. They've lasted, but not nearly long enough. They didn't outlast the school, obviously. So that's why we're having to go back in and put some concrete in. But we're constantly looking at that because we want a balance of providing shade as much as we can. Sometimes we're doing more with building structures. A lot of our newer schools have space outside that's covered with building overhangs and courtyards and things like that have cover rather than trees, but we also mix in the trees for some green and some shade as well. So,
and there may want to be thought, even though that pavers may not last 30 or 40 years, whether or not the benefit, and it's difficult to determine the cost benefit part of it, but to say, if we do have to fix the pavers every 5 or 10 years, that's a cost worth having to have natural shade trees in our schools. I mean, that's probably a discussion in another place at another time, but just because there is a diminution in usefulness over time, we may want to consider that.
No, and we look at all those factors every school that we do. Those slides were specifically for minor projects, so that was the renovation of old facilities, but we do look at those considerations on every new school and modernization, that we provide as much shade as we can, but not, and provide the best quality we can, so.
Okay, any other questions, comments for in progress? All right, we're on to follow-up. We had a short follow-up page that was part of our agenda.
I think there was a hand I heard.
Yeah, I heard the ding. Who's got the hand? John Cheshire.
Yeah, number one there, this is my favorite topic, the policy for contingency use. Can staff explain again now what the deal is with this consultant?
So we were actually ready to move forward with some both contract modifications and policy modifications, pushing those to the board when it was decided to hire a consultant to review our policies and procedures. So we have this company coming in to review those, give us comments, and so that's why those are being held up from being presented to the board.
Well, let me say, just for the newer CORC members, I'll give a little background on this. It was in early 2020. Yes, that's 5 years ago. It was recognized that staff was taking liberties with the interpretation and use of the contingency use policy, and it continues today, and we just tolerate it. So it was decided back then to revise and update the policy to make it more accommodate how the contingency use is used. So in July of 2020, CORC and staff started the review and revision process, and it was finalized in August of 2021, 3.5 years ago. So staff and CORC said, okay, these are the revisions, and now they've got to go through the process with the rest of the school district to get that done. So that was 3.5 years ago, even though it says here on the follow-up item, it says August 10th, 23. It was actually August of 2021. So anyway, today, David, I'd like to request, and if CORC would agree, I would like to request that you send a letter to the board expressing our displeasure on this delay and request that they expedite the process and getting it reviewed and approved?
I suppose we can do something like that, but if it's kind of in progress at this point, I don't know how much weight our letter might have.
Would that
Well,
be
we don't
something
know if
that
it's in progress or if this consultant
they reach out to the individual board members?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if as a collegial body, CORC wanted to make that comment, it would have to be an agenda item and CORC as a board would have to vote on that. However, you are certainly free to reach out to individual board members to express your personal comments and frustration, but I would recommend that if that is the will of CORC, that it's got to be an agenda item for the board, for CORC to vote as a body.
Michael Gelfand.
Isn't it an agenda item because it's on the follow-up list?
I agree. It is an agenda item.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of our follow-up, and we're now being told there's going to be more postponement. So I think
I believe the follow-up is attached to the CORC report, right? That gets sent to the board?
Yeah.
Okay, so it does. So any comments, are they allowed to make comments on that or?
I mean, I guess you could, but as a collegial body to make a uniform statement, one individual does not represent CORC as a body. So my understanding would be that in order for CORC to make a statement to the board on this, it would have to be an agenda item, and it's not listed as an agenda item on this. It's just a supplemental follow-up report. And again, that does not prohibit any CORC member from contacting a board member to express the individual frustration. But again, I'm going to go back. I think as a body, it's got to be on either, new business or consent. It's got to be something that is voted on.
So one way we can potentially approach this is our comments that we have in the board report that go down the line, and we can just go through the membership list right now and just ask people, do you have any comments? And we can say that, and then the board report could say to the board, every CORC member commented that they're concerned about this.
Yeah.
Yep, no objection.
Joe Sanchez, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to express what the practical result of this is. Now, right now, we've changed the date for bringing the policies back to the board from February to July. So right now, we're planning on bringing these policies back to the board in July. And what the effect of making a comment to the board is, the board is going to turn to the superintendent. The superintendent is going to and tell them, get this to us as quickly as possible. The superintendent is going to tell them July is probably as quickly as possible if we can get it done because of all the other things are already on the calendar for the board to consider. So, I understand the frustration, but the effect is not gonna change the timing really. We're really gonna bring it in July already. And the other thing is that if we did try to force this onto the agenda more quickly than July, is that we're going to end up doing this twice because the consultant may have some recommendations that we're going to have to, again, may modify the changes that we're about to make now anyway. So that was the purpose, is try to incorporate everything all at one time. So I'm not sure if you're going to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish by making some kind of statement to the board at this point. My recommendation would really be to try to, that we're going to, let's get it done as quickly as possible. If you want us to we're already going to try to expedite the consultant's work as quickly as possible to make sure that we get this done. Because this has been going on for too long. But I just don't think that going to the board and trying to ask them to do something quicker is going to result in something doing any faster than July already.
Virginia, you still have your hand up?
Yes, I appreciate your comment, Mr. Sanchez, and all the other comments. I think being here a very long time, I agree with John Cheshire. We've been waiting for quite a long time, but I do understand, Mr. Sanchez, what you're saying. And I just wanted to comment that since this is on our agenda as a follow-up item, a motion would be in order. And that would show what the board's feelings were about this. I'm not suggesting to do the motion in light of Joe's comments, but I'm just stating that since it is on the board, it is on our agenda, a motion where everyone votes on an item is appropriate. Thank you.
I also think our board report is about discussions we're having, and we're having this discussion. So the board report will note our discussion about our disgruntlement with the time delay of getting the contingency use policy advanced. I mean, you know, we're probably not going to get it done any sooner than July, but we can still voice our displeasure with the time frame. That's all we can really do.
Yeah, I just think, I don't know, I'm just expecting that the board has hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents to look at. They'll look at the CORC report and say, oh yeah, okay, they approved everything. I'm not sure that has the weight involved that I'm asking for, number one. Number two, I have absolutely zero confidence that this is going to get approved in July. And I'm just so frustrated with it. I don't know what to do, but I'm going to contact my board member for sure.
Okay. My question on this is, are the existing policies what is being reviewed, or is the consultant looking at our revised policy that had been proposed, but is because it's not the official policy, are we just going to get back comments on the existing policy, not what we worked through?
I'm not leading the charge on the review, but I would think they would have both options. They would see both so they can see what changes. We have a marked up version of the old policy with strike through so we can see exactly what was changed.
I mean, I'd like that to be investigated and brought back to the next CORC meeting, an answer on that. It's a waste of everybody's time if they just go through and review the current policy. Mr. Sanchez.
It's not just policy that they're looking at. We've talked about in this meeting of the payment process and the change order process and helping to get, contractors paid faster, change order paid, process quicker. They're looking at that process. So it's not only looking at policy, but consultants are to do. So, I just want to, I've been around long enough as well to know that this pendulum has gone back and forth where we had less restrictive policies and we got things done quicker, and then we had audits, and then we started to put these rules in place, and now we're trying to work with one on top behind our back, and now we're just trying to find that right balance where we have good coverage, good stewardship of the taxpayers' money, but yet we're getting contractors paid fast enough. So again, I think that some people have the notion that the more rules, the better. Well, that's not the case. We're tying our own hands. We're making ourselves less attractive as a client. So let's find that right balance so we can accomplish both goals of being good stewards and also getting work done quickly.
And again, I'll go back to my point, Joe, is that if let's say July, we're supposed to get back the policy for contingency use and change orders, and it's the same policy that we've had without CORC's previous markups, then we're back to where we started 5 years ago.
No, they'll certainly have the markups, yeah. I mean,
that won't happen. That won't happen.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure somebody's giving whoever's looking at this stuff the markup copy to know all the work that went into creating the policy we think it should be.
So to be clear, will the comments go on the board report?
There will be comments on the board report that we had this discussion, and obviously the discussion has been as a report that we're not perfectly pleased with the time frame, but there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, thank you.
Well, with this consultant, I'm sure he has hundreds of policies he's going to be reviewing. Is this one going to be given a priority, or is it just in the mix?
No, this consultant is not looking at hundreds of policies. This consultant is only looking at construction. So it's only a handful of policies.
Okay, and again, why is it taking till July then? If he's Why can't he look at it now, get us his comments back the following month, and then you go to the board with it?
Yeah, I don't know, if, Leanne, if you know where we are with the hiring, or Barbara, do you guys know where, if the contract has been executed with this consulting?
I don't think,
It has not been executed.
Okay. All right, but we'll make that the first priority.
And I might be wrong, but I thought that there was somebody the district was hiring to review all policies because some of them were so antiquated that it needed to be weeded out.
we do, and district staff has reviewed those, all the construction policies by department, so.
Okay, so that's not the same as we're talking about here. Joe, you're talking about the audit, I assume.
I'm saying that this consultant is specifically hired for construction. The district the district reviews all policies, but that the consultant is not hired to review all policies. They're just hired to review construction work.
Okay. All right, anything else on follow-up?
Yeah, I did want to make a note on item number 4. We were asked last month to add personal information to the contact sheet. We went through legal, we did review, and it was determined that personal information is not required to be provided on the members list, but Erin did send out a request to each of you to provide any information that you wanted to have included. She's only gotten a response back from one of the members. So if you could please let Erin know what you want or not want on the list so she can finalize that. John, sorry.
John Cheshire.
Yeah, number 5 about the local preference procedures. It says 12/12/24, but actually the procedures were presented to CORC in October of 24. If that could be reflected on this item, I'd appreciate it. And if we could also get an update on what meeting in 2025, I hope we're not going too far down the line on this one.
Okay, those dates that we have on there, John, are the meeting dates that this was asked to be provided as a follow-up item. So that's why that's 12/24, and number 1 was 8/23, because that is the meeting where you asked to have it put on as a follow-up item. Mr. Sanchez was hoping to get that early in 2025 for number 5. He did not think he was going to be at this meeting today, which is why it was not on today's agenda. But as soon as he has an opening on a CORC day, he's going to be working, or I'm not going to speak for you, Joe, but.
Well, I'll just add to that, because I mean, I think it makes sense. If we're going to look at the local preference criteria, that we take a look at some of the other criteria at the same time, including SBE and perhaps some others, because they all affect each other, because the points are proportional to everything else, right? So I want to do that. But I also I need to bring it back through the leadership at the district, because there's not universal agreement within our team about what those point structures should look like. And I don't want to bring something to CORC that I don't have agreement for, the rest of the team. So I want to have some agreement, and then bring that back and say, okay, this is what we can live with as district leadership. And if CORC has a different recommendation, that's fine. But I want to make sure I'm not just speaking for Joe Sanchez, but I'm speaking on behalf of the leadership team of the district and saying this is what we wanted. This is what we think it should be. So I need to work through that process.
Well, actually, why not get the comments from CORC that you take to the leadership team and let them see what CORC is suggesting?
I don't have a problem with doing that. If you have some other suggestions other than, I think the last thing I got from you guys is that you think that locals should represent, I think, 10% of the points. I think that's the last thing I got. So I'll bring back, I'll send you some criteria where that represents 10% of the points.
Well, it was actually more than just 10% of the points. There were other items we were discussing about what is the definition of a local. Just having a local business tax receipt is not a local consultant. And there were many other items. It just wasn't the 10%, Joe.
No, you're right. I kind of glossed over the rest of it, but yeah, you're right. You also asked for a clearer definition of local. I'll bring that too.
Okay, anything else, John?
No, thank you.
Okay.
One other thing that I wanted to bring up on the follow-up items is something that I missed on this list. Virginia brought up last month that there was a discrepancy between the meeting minutes and the board report in November. And she is correct. I went back and looked at it. Chadwick McCoy was listed as an excused absence on the board report, but was not listed as an excused absence on the meeting minutes. So I will update those meeting minutes and reissue them next month.
Thank you.
Okay. Next CORC meeting is on your agenda, February 13th.
I'd like to request an excused absence.
Okay. What's the reason? You got a business thing? Well, usually we have a reason, because if you're just going to say, yeah, I'm going fishing. No, that's not an excused absence.
I'm going
You can eat
to Wyoming, so I might be snowed in, so I'm not sure if I'll have time to do all the review.
Whether it's vacation or business, that's acceptable. Just email that to Dorothy. She emails it to me, and then I send it back excused.
Okay.
And it gets listed.
Thank you.
Okay. And now we're down to election of officers, so you would have needed to ask that excused absence of the next chair. All right. Opening the floor for nominations for chair of CORC for 2025.
Let's give it to Dave. He's at the right price.
Do I hear any other nominations? Does anyone else want to take this over?
I say my comments are in jest. David, you're doing an excellent job at leading things forward and keeping us on track. And I should apologize perhaps for my throw-ins, but I appreciate you letting everyone.
That's fine. They're accepted. I haven't left yet.
I believe there's a unanimous consent on that nomination.
All right. I guess you guys need to vote on that, Dorothy. If there's no other nominations and the nominations are closed, and Dorothy can poll everybody on the vote.
David Porter?
Yes.
John Cheshire?
Yes.
Michael Gelfand?
Yes.
Michael Guida? Tom
He's
Berger?
going to give you an excused absence.
We're not doing my projects right now, so I have other ways to do that.
Virginia Ferris?
Definitely yes.
Francesca Warnish?
Yes.
Bruce Alexander?
Yes, with the request, please, that the meeting minutes reflect that not only was it unanimous, but without any discussion or dissent.
Okay.
Okay.
Kevin Wilkinson?
Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you for the vote of confidence. All right, now we are opening the floor to nominations for vice chair. I nominate Virginia Ferris. And any other nominations?
Move to vote and approve by acclamation.
All right, Dorothy, go ahead.
Okay, we got to move. Do we need a second on that?
We need a second.
I'll second it.
Second by Michael Guida. Go ahead and poll us, please.
David Porter?
Yes.
John Cheshire?
Yes.
Michael Gelfand?
Yes.
Michael Guida?
Yes.
Tom Berger?
Yes.
Virginia Ferris?
Yes.
Francesca Warnish?
Yes.
Bruce Alexander?
Yes.
Kevin Wilkinson?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for all of that. We're down to approval of the minutes. Anyone with issues on the minutes?
Very good minutes.
Okay, therefore the minutes are accepted. And CORC report was presented to the board. I don't think we have anything specific for our next agenda that we've asked to be put on there. At some future meeting, let's get just a brief explanation of how our as-built look when they're done and finalized and put away in the drawers. So that we have some kind of visual proof that it's all being done with accurate measurements, photographs, anything else, so we know where the pipes are.
If there's going to be a visual presentation on that, if we can get a couple of PDFs so that we can see it a little bit better on our screens at home.
Yeah, and I think those could also be part of the agenda, the uploads that you give us, and therefore we can, put them on our own computers and zoom in and zoom out to see what they look like.
Speaking of that, is there a potential of putting the agenda into a zip drive so we just have to download it once?
I know I download everything as an individual file from FC and PC and agenda summary.
Yeah, I prefer it as separate documents.
I'd still like to request to put it into a zip so that we can with the zip drive, you unpack it once you download it and it drops.
Yeah, that would be quicker the way I do it. It sounds like the way Michael does it. If in addition to the individual board doc, somehow there is a zip folder that we can just download one shot and then we can extract it in our own computers and organize it in whatever folders we want.
Yeah.
Especially when we get, 13 PC projects and they're 60 megabyte, 80 megabytes each.
We will certainly look into that. That's very, very much a possibility.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
You don't get paper delivery anymore?
You've been on here long enough that you remember paper deliveries?
Yes, I do.
Oh, God. 2-inch thick binders.
Mr. Porter reminded me of you guys used to give out CDs.
Yeah, but that was after we used to get paper copies of the entire agenda and all the backup documents, 2 to 2.5 inches thick, delivered by a staff member to our house or office prior to each meeting. We didn't have, stones and chisels and hammers and all that, but, it was still a paper copy. All right. Anything else by any CORC member? We are then adjourned.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Yep, Happy New Year.
Thank you.